Topic 14, Futures Contracts by Lou Gaddis. Some resources from the web are listed below. And let's talk about Section 1, Understanding the Choice of Forwards. Later, we'll calculate margin requirements and margin calls. We'll then understand futures delivery and cheapest to deliver. We'll talk about managing basis risk. And lastly, constructing strip hedges versus stack and roll hedges. So let's talk about a futures contract. Futures contracts are simply exchange-traded forward contracts. Their typical features are a futures contract is standardized with respect to quantity, quality, delivery dates, locations, and procedures for delivery. There's also a clearinghouse associated with the exchange that matches the buy and sell order. However, once the clearinghouse matches the buyers and sellers of a futures contract, the clearinghouse becomes the counterparty. The clearinghouse will guarantee delivery and payment, keeps track of members' obligations and payments, or the settlement process, and they manage that daily settlement process, which is kind of like a daily P&L process, where that daily settlement, the P&L, depends on the movement of the futures price and interest on balances. And lastly, they require an initial margin, kind of a security deposit, and a maintenance margin. Let's talk about the choice between a forward contract that we talked about in the last topic and a futures contract. So in the last topic, we talked about OTC forwards, over-the-counter forwards, or simply are contracts to buy or sell something in the future where all the contract specifications are listed. The main benefit of a forward contract like that is it has high flexibility. You can negotiate all the terms, the quality, the quantity, the delivery locations, the dates, and so on. And they're generally low credit risk. However, there's extremely low liquidity. Once you have a forward contract to buy or sell an asset, it's very difficult to get rid of that contract unless you try to negotiate with the issuer. On the other hand, an exchange-traded future is simply a forward contract that is traded on an exchange. The main benefit is it's highly liquid, meaning that you can enter into a contract to buy a commodity for a year from today's delivery date, but change your mind the following day or even that later day and take an opposing trade to get out of it. However, there's very low flexibility. It's specified quantity, quality, delivery dates, locations. The only thing you choose is to buy or sell and the number of contracts. However, an exchange-traded future is generally considered to have no credit risk. There's never been a major exchange that has failed in the United States. But let's talk about one other type of forward, and that is sometimes called physicals or a physical forward. And this is an example of, say, a cattle futures contract or a cattle forward contract. Why don't I just get an actual physical contract with a farmer to deliver their output? And like an OTC forward, there's very little or no liquidity. That contract is an obligation. But there's a degree of flexibility with that farmer. So just like a forward contract, you negotiate the specific terms. The main risk of a physical forward is high credit risk. You have that risk of that farm not having the asset to deliver. So that's the choice between physicals, OTC forwards, and exchange-traded futures. It's that trade-off between flexibility or tailorization of the contract, credit risk, and liquidity. In the next topic, we'll talk about margin requirements, maintenance margin, and margin calls at the clearinghouse for futures contracts.